Hello, this is week 14 for DM70, and it will be the final webinar for this class for the semester. What I plan to cover this evening is the requirements for user testing, final project deadlines, and just a couple of things about creating flexible images on your HTML pages when the browser resizes or for viewing on a mobile device, how the image, the display of the image can change according to the size of the viewport. In other words, you can choose to have text wrap around image on a desktop display, or you can choose the image to occupy the entire width of its container on a mobile device, so no text wraps around it. So there's a couple of options that you have. First, I'd like to go to our website and go over a couple of reminders here. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. What I would like to encourage you to do first is this week, please go to the My Grades section. Turn edit mode off so it looks similar to what you're used to seeing. So I'd like you to go to the My Grades section. All of the gradable activities for the entire semester are listed in there, along with the score that's been earned. And there is also a cumulative grade, so what your percentage is thus far. And I'd like everybody to go and take a look, see what you've missed. This weekend is going to be Amnesty Weekend, so if you need to make up some work, now's the time to do it. I went into a number of student grade records and entered 0 for those things that hadn't been completed, and noticed that several of you, your overall grade for the course dropped below passing level. So let's get on those. It's not too late. You do have some amnesty this weekend to take some of those quizzes. And if you have any questions about it, please contact me via the Cabrillo email. I've got a busy weekend this weekend, but I do get my Cabrillo email. I may not be logging into Blackboard several times a day, but that's the quickest way to get a hold of me. So go into My Grades and look and see what you're missing. Those quizzes are only 5 points. They're very easy. You can take them multiple times if you need to. If you want me to reset a quiz so you have another shot at it to get a better grade, I'm willing to do that too, but you're going to need to email me which ones, the number of the quiz, and then also with the discussion board postings as well, and that seems to be where folks have missed out on a lot of points. So please take a look at that area. Okay, next let's go into the projects link of the course. I did have somebody ask me when the due date of the final project was, and these are listed in the calendar, but if you go into the projects section, you also see that the instructions for each of these have been listed, and you can go ahead and click on the link for the final project, and all the due dates are in here. See, they're in this call-out box. They're also listed at the bottom of the instructions on the page. So here we have final project scoring rubric, due May 12th, and then how the final project is being scored. So 0 points if the topic was not covered, 1 point if the topic was addressed but not covered thoroughly, 2 points awarded if the topic was addressed thoroughly. The number of pages for the final project needs to be 8 to 12 pages, and 10 points are subtracted if you don't do the user testing, and the user testing is happening this week. So Make sure you do that, and then post the results of your user testing in the discussion board. And here's the point breakdown for all of the elements of the final project: navigation, purpose, graphics, consistency, typography, technical issues, and organization. So you can go through each of those. Hold on just a moment here. Had a faculty member walk out of the Teaching and Learning Center and try to come back in, and the door was locked. Okay, thank you. So, final project instructions: submit the URL for your final project using this link. Here's another link to the final project specifications. So that should take care of that. Let's see, lecture modules. We have one more next week. This week it's flexible images and user testing, but I have also included your user testing questions, and I'd like to know who reviewed your site. Was it a friend or a family member or a fellow student? And then questions your user may answer that you need to include in your discussion board post. What are the elements that the user really connected with your site? Were they able to find their way around the site and navigate without hitting any broken links? Were there terms or words used that confused them? Did the names of the buttons and the links make sense? Were there things that they clicked on and expected to see but wasn't there? And then describe what you personally discovered during the user testing. Was there any spelling or grammatical issues? Were there any questions about the website? If you found solutions, let people know what you did. If you have done user testing before, tell us about your experience. What do you look for first in a website? What features of a site did you find the most important and the least important? And then copy-paste your results of the user testing into the discussion thread. So if we go to the discussion board, let me go back to the discussion board here. The questions are here again, so you can just go right into the discussion board and create a thread and copy-paste your results in that thread. Okay, I think that's it. Let's take a look at the calendar. The website, the final project, is due before midnight on May the 12th. And then I'm going to post a discussion board topic, and you have until, I believe, Tuesday, the 20th. This is finals week, the week of the 19th, to post your reflections in the discussion board. And then that will be it for the semester. So if you have any questions or want to copy any web resources out of the site, please do so in the next couple of weeks. A lot of times people want to save some of the web resources, save some of the instructions, or print them out from the learning modules. So now's the time to do that. Alrighty. So flexible images. Well, responsive websites use media queries to detect the device or the resolution of the device being used to access them. Once this determination has been made, a combination of flexible images, typography, and grids adjust to fit the screen. You want to start with quality images. Make sure that they're optimized and scaled or cropped before you upload them to your local root folder, but always save the original image. And you can save that as a different name. For example, motorcycle original, so you know that that's the native file, or save a native Photoshop file instead of saving a JPEG. Most likely you will be using the larger images though. And so the CSS selector, when we use the fluid grid layout in Dreamweaver, that boilerplate.css file automatically comes with this selector, the image max width 100%. That means that the image will always be 100% of the parent container. If you have a container named header, or a container named footer, or one named sidebar, and you've set that to be a certain percentage width of the browser, it could be the entire width, or it could be within a smaller container, this particular selector will ensure that your image, regardless of the viewport, will always resize to 100%, and you can see that here. Images with this CSS selector will display at their native dimensions so long as there is enough room in the HTML container, in that div container. As the browser window narrows, the images will scale to fit, and I've demonstrated that in a couple of modules the last several weeks. For images and body text, you want to measure the width of the image as a percentage of the overall width of the page or the container. In other words, if you want your text to float around the image when the viewport is desktop, for instance, you can set a selector and name it inline IMG and make sure that that image floats right or floats left, and that you have some margins around it. So you want to have ample margin between the text and the border of the image, whether it be on the right or the left. And you can also set it so the width will be 45% or 50% or 60%, whatever you choose, of that particular container. And then the minimum width, it will never be smaller than 300 pixels. So let's take a look at that for just a moment. Let me insert a new page here. Let's say I've got a page and then got a header and for the desktop display, I've got a couple of columns. So I have a sidebar 1, a sidebar 2, and I decide to insert an image in the first sidebar, and I would like that to only take up 45%. So we'll put that there. And then I want my text to wrap around the image. In this second sidebar, I'd like my images to take up 100% of their parent container. And then the text will not wrap. So in this case, The image will float left and the text will wrap around to the right. Let's call this Sidebar 1. In Sidebar 2, the image occupies 100% of its parent container. Now when we're viewing this on a mobile device, let's draw the header up here. I think I wanted to go with black. And we have one column. That would be Sidebar 1. Because remember, when it resizes, that one on the left is going to be the first one up here. In this case now, I want, for Sidebar 1, I don't want the text to wrap because I don't have much room to work with. But I do want that image to take up maybe 80% of the parent container. But in this case, it'll not only be 80% of the parent container, there will be no float. So the text is not going to wrap around it. And I can do the same thing for Sidebar 2 for the mobile and choose to have this 100% image now be 80%. So it's in line, or it follows the same format as the one above it. So hopefully that makes sense. So again, you can choose to create another class selector, and in this time it's inline image no float. So remember back here, we created inline image that would float text around it. Now we're going to create one inline image no float. And the image takes up 90% of the parent container, or 80% as I drew on that blank page. And the display will be set to block, so no text will wrap around it. All right. So let's go to Dreamweaver. So I have a page here, and it's inside a fluid div. So it will resize to the viewport. And let's go ahead and put an image in. Let's see. Let's go to Insert. Let me find an image. I remember where I put my images. There's some there, but I'm not going to use those. Okay. Let's use a black and white of the boardwalk. That looks like a good one. Okay. So I've got an image. I want the text to wrap around it. Easiest way to do that is to come over here and select my CSS, global, choose a selector. So in that container, which is called div1 paragraph image, in that container I'm going to choose the float property. Let's choose image float. There we go. I wanted to do that. Okay, so let's do a float left and put a margin on the right. And let's find my float here. Oh, I see what the issue is. I need that to be a class style. Yep, let me go into the code and fix that. Okay, there it is. And that applied to the, let's do maximum width 100%. And we're going to put this style up here. There we go. Okay, not very fancy, but here's the desktop, there's the tablet, there's the mobile. Let's say I don't want it to float on the mobile, then I can create a new style. Call it inline image no float. And then for the mobile, I need to set a block for it too. Display block. There we go. Okay. So now it changed across all of them. There's the inline image no float. And for this one I want it to float. Is that going to go? Oh, it's, gosh darn. Okay. So for the desktop, let's get rid of no float because we want the text to float around it. For the tablet, okay, that seems to work there. And, whoops, what happened to my no float here? Inline image float. Okay, let's take no float out of there. Tablet and mobile, and then we'll use no float. Okay. Display block. And no float. And let's do this. All right. Oh, shoot. Once again. Okay, well, in theory, that text was supposed to float around that image. Right, maximum width margin, right. Okay, I've got a couple competing. Let's take that one out. Okay, well, once again, I need to figure out where things went wrong there, and I'll go ahead and put a solution in the learning module when I get this figured out. I know it's something really simple. We've got float right there, but then it's still doing it in this display. And I've got competing selectors, I'm sure. Alrighty, well, that's it for now. And like I said, I'll go ahead and post a solution in the website. Alrighty, take care.